Apple is making a big move with the iPhone 17 Pro, and this time it's not about new AI features or software tricks. Instead, the change is about design. Apple is giving its top iPhone a new look that closely resembles Google's Pixel 10. For a company that usually prides itself on sticking to its own design language, this decision is surprising. But at the same time, it might be one of the smartest choices Apple has made in years. For a long time, Apple has been accused of borrowing software ideas from competitors. Many features that first show up on Android phones often appear in iOS a year or two later. That part isn't shocking anymore. What has set Apple apart, though, is its consistent hardware design. Since the iPhone X in 2017, Apple hasn't really changed the overall look of its phones. The flat edges and stacked cameras have become a little predictable. Memes and jokes often point out that iPhones from the past several years all look almost identical. People have been asking for something fresh, and with the iPhone 17 Pro, it looks like Apple is finally ready to deliver. This change comes at an important time. The iPhone 16 was promoted as the AI iPhone, but many of the features Apple showed off weren't ready at launch. Customers were left disappointed because the biggest selling points were delayed. Apple shifted focus toward its new liquid glass design in iOS, but the damage was done. People felt the hype didn't match the product. That mistake made it even more clear that Apple needed to rethink its strategy for the next iPhone. Meanwhile, Google has been building a stronger identity with its Pixel phones. The Pixel 10, for example, is instantly recognizable because of its horizontal camera bar. Google controls the hardware, the software, and even its own processors, just like Apple does. That's why the Pixel is often called the iPhone of Android. And while Pixel sales are still far behind Apple and Samsung, the brand is slowly gaining more attention. A noticeable number of Pixel users are actually former iPhone owners, which should be a wake-up call for Apple. By adopting a Pixel-style camera bar on the iPhone 17 Pro, Apple is doing something clever. At first, it may look like Apple is copying Google, but in reality, it's Apple reclaiming the design language that has been pulling some iPhone users toward Pixel. The message is clear: you don't need to switch to Google for a bold new design. You can stay with the iPhone and still enjoy a fresh look. Of course, design alone won't be enough to carry the iPhone 17 Pro. Google's Pixel phones have their own weaknesses, like slower chips and AI features that don't always work as expected. Apple can take advantage of that. By combining a new design with its polished hardware and strong performance, Apple could create the perfect balance between style and reliability. Some people will still criticize this move. They'll say Apple is admitting defeat by following Google's design. Others will argue that there are only so many ways to arrange cameras on a smartphone, so overlap is unavoidable. And then there are those who believe this is just Apple striking back at Google, since Google has borrowed ideas from Apple in the past. No matter the debate, one thing is certain: this redesign puts Apple back at the center of the conversation. Another reason this move is smart is that it shifts attention away from the overhyped world of AI. Big companies have been pushing AI as the future, but many users are starting to feel skeptical. If Apple focuses less on AI gimmicks and more on practical improvements like durability, battery life, and real performance, it could give people exactly what they've been asking for. The smartphone market has been stuck in a cycle of small, predictable upgrades. Cameras get a little better, screens get a little brighter, and processors get a little faster, but nothing feels truly exciting anymore. Google has leaned on its AI story, and Apple has leaned on its ecosystem. But by giving the iPhone 17 Pro a fresh look and pairing it with meaningful hardware improvements, Apple can reignite excitement around the iPhone brand. In the end, this move isn't Apple giving up originality. It's Apple adapting to the market and listening to what people want. Sometimes the smartest decision is to let go of pride and focus on what works. If the iPhone 17 Pro delivers the right balance of design, performance, and reliability, it could win back users who were tempted by Google, and it could remind everyone why the iPhone is still one of the most important phones in the world.